Hello friends, today we will learn about air pollution and control. The Earth's atmosphere contains various gases, water vapor and suspended particles. The dry air of the atmosphere is composed of four major gases, that is nitrogen, oxygen, argon and carbon dioxide, that account for more than 99.5%. The other gases found in traces in air include helium, methane, krypton, hydrogen, carbon monoxide, nitrous oxide, nitrogen dioxide, ammonia, ozone, sulfur dioxide, and hydrogen sulfide. The lower part of the atmosphere also contains water vapor at a concentration ranging from 0.01 to 5.0%. This water is mostly contributed by evaporation from the hydrosphere. The air is getting contaminated by due pollution due the natural and unnatural activities of human beings. Air pollution is basically the presence of foreign substances in the air at a concentration that will adversely affect the health and property of the individual. According to World Health Organization WHO criteria, air pollution refers to the substances put into the air by the activity of mankind into concentration sufficient to cause harmful effects to his health, vegetables property, or to interfere with the enjoyment of his property. According to Indian standard situations, air pollution is the presence of ambient atmosphere of substances generally resulting from the activity of man in sufficient concentration present for sufficient time and under circumstances which interfere significantly with the comfort, health, and welfare of a person or with the full use of environment of his property. The term pollutant refers to a substance which increases in quantity in the air and adversely affects the environment. Example carbon monoxide, sulfur dioxide, lead. On the other hand, a contaminant is a substance which is not present in nature but released due to human activity. Example methyl isocyanate, DDT, mm, malathion, etc. However, this distinction is not very rigid and most authors use the term pollutant to represent both pollutant as well as contamination. Now, let's know about the source of air pollution. The sources that contribute to air pollution may be broadly categorized into two types. One is natural and is second is anthropogenic, means man-made source. First of all, we will know about natural sources. These include volcanic eruptions, sandstorms, decomposition of organic matter, forest fire, pollen grains, and karmic dust. The problem of pollution due to natural sources is general, is considered to be minimal, but in man-made or anthropogenic sources, we'll see what happens. In anthropogenic sources, air pollution due to human-induced activities is very high. The sources, the sources of pollution include industries, burning of fossil fuels, emissions from the vehicles, agricultural activities, and warfares. The sources of air pollution may also considered as stationary or mobile in nature. Stationary means industries, open combustion, etc. And mobile means motor vehicles, trains, aircrafts, like this. Now let's know about industrial pollutant. The major problem of air pollution is due to industrial activities. Among the several industries, 9 types of industries are considered to be the major air pollutant generating industries. Among these, thermal power plants, steel industries, petroleum refineries, and metal smelters are the most dangerous polluting industries. Now, come to classification of air pollutants. Air pollutants are classified based on their origin, chemical composition, and state of matter. Classification based on origin. Air pollutants are divided into two categories based on their origin, primary and secondary. Primary air pollutants. Let's know about primary air pollutants. These pollutants are directly emitted into the atmosphere and present there as such, that is in the form they are originally emitted. Primary air pollutants contribute to as much as 90% global air pollution. Particulates, carbon monoxide, oxides of sulfur, oxides of nitrogen, hydrocarbons, radioactive compounds, pollen, and bacteria are the major primary or air pollutants. Good example of secondary pollutants are ozone, peroxyacetyl nitrate, PAN, formaldehyde, and smog. Now, let's know about classification based on chemical composition. According to chemical composition, air pollutants categorized as organic and inorganic. Organic air pollutants. Let's know about organic air pollutants. These pollutants are mainly composed of carbon and hydrogen. In addition, oxygen, nitrogen, sulfur, and phosphorus may also be present. Example hydrocarbons, organic sulfur compounds, aldehydes, ketones, carboxylic acids, like this. Now, let's know about inorganic air pollutants. These are purely inorganic in nature. Example carbon dioxide, carbon monoxide, oxide of sulfur, oxides of nitrogen, ozone. Let's Air pollutants may be divided into two types based on the state in which they exist: particulate and gaseous. Particulate air pollutants. Let's know about particulate air pollutants. The solids and liquids dispersed in the atmosphere constitute the particulate air pollutant. Solid particulates, example smoke, dust, fly, ash. Liquid particulates, example mist, fog, spray. Now, let's know about gaseous air pollutants. These are the organic and inorganic gases that are present in the air and as pollutants. Organic gases, example methane, butane, aldehydes. Inorganic gases like carbon dioxide, SO2, NO2, NH3, H2S. Now, effects of pollution. Majority of the air pollutants are present normally in the atmosphere, although at low concentrations. Such pollutants are unlikely to cause any significant harmful effects. When the concentration of the air pollutants go beyond the acceptable limits, they are dangerous and cause several harmful effects. The WHO means World Health Organization. The WHO has set guidelines and fixed threshold limit values, TLV, threshold limit values for each air pollutant. The general effects of air pollutants on humans, plants, animals, materials, and global climate are effects of air pollutants on humans. Let's know about effects of air pollutants on humans. On an average, man breathes around 22,000 times and inhales about 16 kg of air each day. Primarily, the air we breathe is life sustaining. However, pollutants present in the air often cause harmful effects. The nature of pollutant Its concentration and duration of exposure are among factors that affect the health of humans. In general, infants, elderly people, and those with respiratory diseases are more susceptible to air pollution. Further, adverse health effects of air pollutants are maximum during winter compared to other seasons. Sulfur dioxide is the most dangerous pollutant gas to man. It is produced in many industries and causes respiratory disorders. Oxides of nitrogen and carbon monoxide reduce oxygen supply to the tissues. Lead pollution is associated with tissue damage and abnormal behavioral pattern. Suspended particulate matter (SPM) mainly causes chronic pulmonary diseases. Prolonged exposure to radioactive isotopes results in anemia besides a heavy risk of cancer and genetic defects. Now let's know about health effects of some of the air pollutants. Like sulfur dioxide causes nose and throat irritation, respiratory illness. Prolonged exposure may lead to chronic bronchitis. And then nitrogen dioxide NO2. It irritates irritation of eyes, nose, and throat. And nitric oxide combines with oxygen and reduces supply of oxygen to tissues. Now let's know about carbon monoxide. Carbon monoxide binds to hemoglobin and drastically reduce oxygen supply to the tissues, may result in cardiovascular and pulmonary diseases. Now come to heavy metals, Pb. Heavy metals damage to liver, kidney and brain, causes anemia, neurobehavioral changes, abnormalities, infertility and pregnancy. Now come to aliphatic hydrocarbons. It causes aliphatic hydrocarbons and polycyclic organic compounds cause cancer. Suspended particulate matter (SPM), chronic pulmonary diseases, bronchitis, asthma. It makes asthma. Radioactive isotopes like I-131, P32, CO60. These causes anemia, cancer, and genetic defects. Know about effects of air pollutants on plants. At low concentration, the air pollutants may not cause any visible damage to the plants. At this level, the pollutants may be stored and introduced into the food chain. This in turn may affect animals as well as human beings. The entry of the gas air pollutants SO2, NO2 predominantly occurs through the stomach opening on the lips. Stomata opening on the lips. Stomata are located at the bottom of the lips through which carbon dioxide enters for photosynthesis. In the same way as carbon dioxide enters the lips, the gaseous pollutants also enter and cause various effects. The solid particles are adsorbed on the surface of lips. This may result in clogging of the stomata and a reduced intake of carbon dioxide. Further, the suspended particles deposited on the leaves may adversely affect the leaf function. Reduced exposure to sunlight, decreases in chlorophyll content, interruption of gases exchange. The sensitivity of plants to pollutants depends on many factors such as climatic conditions, light, temperature, humidity, soil and water, and the individual plant's response to a particular pollutant. The major air pollution pollutants affects plants are SO2, sulfur dioxide, nitrogen dioxide, ozone, fluorides, ammonia, and ethylene. Besides the particulates, they may damage the plants to varying degrees. The sensitivity of certain selected plants to air pollutants can be used for biomonitoring of pollution. Now, effects of air pollutants on plants. Pollutants like sulfur dioxide, it bleaching of leaves and necrosis, that means killing of leaves. Nitrogen dioxide, what it is? Nitrogen dioxide bleaching it bleaching, and due to dioxide bleaching occurs, bleaching and suppressed growth occurs. Ozone bleaching and necrosis, fluorides marginal necrosis, ammonia leaves become dull green, ethylene ethylene and propylene leaf curling and leaf dropping, peroxyacetyl nitrate pan suppresses growth and silvering of lower leaf surfaces, bleaching and necrosis. Now let's know about effects of air pollutants on animals. The effect of air pollution on animals is mostly indirectly, as it occurs after they eat polluted plants or foliage. Fluorine, lead, and arsenic are three main air pollutants that cause harmful effects to livestock. Fluorine causes loss of weight, muscular weakness, diarrhea, wearing of teeth, and even death. Fluorosis mainly affects the ruminants, particularly dairy cows. Lead poisoning is commonly observed in animals grazing near lead mines. It is associated with loss of appetite, difficulty in breathing, diarrhea, and paralysis. Now come to arsenic. Arsenic toxicity in animals is associated with increased salivation, thirst, irregular pulses, abnormal body temperature, and paralysis. Chronic poisoning may result in anemia, diarrhea, paralysis, and even death. Effects of air pollutants on materials. Let's know about effects of air pollutants on materials. Air pollutants cause immense damage to various materials: stone, metal, paintwork, fiber materials, glass, ceramic, textiles, rubber, architecture, etc. The adverse effects of air pollution on materials and properties are associated with severe economic losses throughout the world. Effects of air pollutants on global climatic changes in global climate and the related processes. Example, ozone depletion, greenhouse effects, acid rain. Let's know about biomonitoring of air pollution. Plants are used to biomonitor biomonitoring pollution, and such plants are referred to as indicator plants. This is based on the principle of sensitivity and response of the plant to the air pollutants. A list of plants used for biomonitoring and the corresponding air pollutants. Among these, lichens and mosses are most commonly used to check quality of air. The pattern of occurrence of patches on lichens serves as an index for biomonitoring of air pollution. Now let's know about bioluminescence in air pollution monitoring. Bioluminescence is the phenomenon of emission of visible light by an organism. It occurs as an enzymatically catalyzed light emitting reaction in living cells. Bioluminescence is an indicator for the analysis of atmospheric gases such as SO2, formaldehyde, and ethyl acetate. The microorganism Photobacterium phosphorium can be used as a special photodetector. The changes in the emission of light due to a pollutant can be detected by a sensor, amplified and recorded. Now let's know about air pollution control. The air pollution load, particularly from industries, can be reduced by several measures: replacement of burning fuel by electricity or solar energy, improvement in fuel burning process, dispersion and dilution of pollutants, and reduction at sources by using control equipment. These measures, however, are useful only in a limited extent. In the nature itself, there are certain devices commonly referred to as atmospheric self-cleansing process for the removal of air pollutants. These natural processes are very slow and limited and cannot cope up with the present increased demands of pollution control. However, the artificially devised pollution control measures are based on the same principles of atmosphere self-cleansing processes. These principles of atmosphere self-cleansing processes uh, these principles include dispersion, gravitational settling, flocculation, absorption, and runout. There are two categories of air control devices to control particulation pollutants and to control gaseous pollutants. Let's know about control devices for particulate pollutants. In general, greater is given to emphasis is given to control particulate pollutants maybe because they are visible. They may, however, be noted that in terms of volume of air pollution, gaseous pollutant contribution is much higher. The important devices or equipment used to control particulate pollutants are gravity settling chambers, one first. Second is cyclone collectors. Third is dynamic participators. Fourth is spray towers. Fifth is electrostatic participators. Sixth is fabric filters. First is gravity settling chambers. Settling chambers are the oldest and very simple type of equipment used for collection of solid particles. As the air is passed through the chambers at low velocity, the dust particles settle by gravity and the clean air comes out. Although this technique is simple, inexpensive, with low cost of maintenance, it is not possible to settle smaller size dust particles. Cyclone collector. Let's know about cyclone collectors. Cyclone collectors also operate on the principle of gravity settlement. The equipment mainly consists of a vertically placed cylinder with an inverted cone attached to its base. As the air enters the cylinder, it takes a helical path downwards due to rapid spiralizing movement of the air. The particles are thrown towards the walls by centrifugal force. These dust particles settle down in the hopper at the bottom while the dust free air passes through a pipe and comes out. The cyclone collectors are simple, low cost, and easy for maintenance. They are ideal for separation of dust particles with sizes 15 to 50 micrometer. Cyclone collectors cannot settle particles less than 10 micrometer size. Now come to let's know about dynamic participators. Dynamic participators work on the principle of centrifugal force generated by rotating blades. The dust particles of the air are concentrated on the rotating blade from where they are collected in a concentrated stream. By employing this equipment, dust particles of 5 to 20 micrometer size can be separated. However, dynamic participators are not suitable for sticky or fibrous dust particles as they stick to the blades. Spray towers. Let's know about spray towers. In spray towers, the dust particles are made to settle down by spraying water. This technique is particularly useful for separating a heavy load of particles. Now let's know about electrostatic participators. Electrostatic participators are very efficient and versatile. They work on the basis of electrostatic attraction. An ESP consists of a thick cylinder fitted with an inlet at bottom and an outlet at the bottom. An electrode, more than one electrode are commonly used, fitted at the center of the cylinder is concentrated to a high voltage cable. As the dust laden air passes through ESP, larger size particles settle down due to gravity. The smaller charged particles are attached to the positively charged electrodes which gradually fall down to the bottom. The dust-free air comes out. Electrostatic participators are said to be dry participators if the dust particles can be removed by scraping. In case of wet electrostatic participators, the particles are removed by using water or any other fluid. Wet participators are more efficient, however, dry participators are preferably used for practical reasons. Let's know about fabric filters. Fabric filters are the most efficient at and can separate particles with sizes less than 0.5 micrometer in diameter. As the air or gas is passed over fabric like mats of wool, cellulose, etc., the dust is trapped while the gas passes out. Collection of dust on the fabric filter results in the formation of a dust layer, commonly referred to as filter cake. This is done serves as a more efficient dust collector and helps to capture even fine dust particles. The fiber filters have to be frequently cleaned. Several models of fabric filtration have been developed for commercial applications. Let's know about control devices for gaseous pollutants. The principal gas pollutants are sulfur dioxide, nitrogen monoxide, carbon monoxide, hydrocarbons, and organic and inorganic acid gases. The control devices used for gaseous pollutants are based on the principles of adsorption, ab- as- absors- absorption, condensation, and combustion. Let's know about adsorption. When a stream of gas is passed through a porous solid material, it can be attract and hold the gas molecules. If the adsorption is purely a physical phenomenon, it is referred to as physical adsorption. This process is rapid and easily reversible. In chemical adsorption, the pollutant gas molecules form chemical bonds with the adsorbent. Chemissorption is very slow, usually requires the supply of energy and is irreversible. Pressure and temperature significantly influence chemical adsorption. Now, the equipment used for adsorption referred to as adsorption adsorber may be fixed, moving, or fluidized beds. Multiple fixed bed adsorber. In this adsorbent is arranged in the form of beds or layers. As the adsorption occurs, the adsorbent gets saturated with the adsorbate. For, for reuse, the gas collected on the adsorbent must be removed If this is not possible, the adsorbent must be replaced. Now come to adsorption. The pollutant gas, when brought in contact with a solvent or liquid, gets absorbed. The process of absorption may occur due to physical or chemical phenomena. Adsorption process is due to control the pollutants SO2, NO2, H2S and hydrocarbons. Ammonia is used as an adsorbent for controlling SO2. Different types of adsorbers are used for control of gaseous pollutants. These include spray towers, plate or tray towers and packed towers. The gas absorption units are SO designed that this occurs an intimate contact between the gas and the liquid. This will ensure optimal absorption of gas into the liquid. Now let's know about spray towers. They can efficiently remove gaseous pollutants besides the particulates. These devices are particularly useful for the removal of pollutant gases with high concentration of particulates. Plates or tray towers. These absorbers are designed with a horizontal trays or plates so as to provide large liquid gas interfacial surface. In the perforated tray tower, the adsorbent enters the column from the top, spills and flows in a zigzag fashion. The polluted air enters the column from an inlet at the side of the bottom. As the air passes through the opening of the tray, it gets in close contact with liquid due to repeated exposure. This enables the removal of gaseous as well as particulate pollutants. The clean gas emerges at the top. Let's know about packed towers. In this case, the liquid is sprayed over a packing material. All rings and ball saddles with large surface to volume ratio. The air with gaseous pollutants enters from the side of the bottom of the tower and clean air comes out from the top. Let's know about condensation. When the temperature of a gaseous compound is reduced, its condensation occurs. There are two devices commonly used to control gaseous pollutants based on the principle of condensation. Let's know about surface condenser. In this device, the cooling medium is passed through metal tubes over which the gas with pollutants is passed. The vapor condenses on the surface of the tubes. This gets collected as a film or liquid which can be drained off. Let's know about contact condensation. Condenser. In contact condenser, the cooling medium and the gaseous pollutants are made to have a direct contact with each other. As the vapors get cooled, they condense and are easily removed along with the water, and a clean gas comes out from the top of the condenser. Combustion. It is a fact that combustion or incineration is a major source of air pollution, and surprisingly the same combustion process effectively serves as control air pollutants. This is carried out by converting certain pollutants, example hydrocarbons, carbon monoxide to carbon dioxide and water. For efficient oxidation during combustion, supply of oxygen, optimal temperature and time are necessary. There are different type of combustion processes depending on the pollutant to be oxidized. The most important ones are flame, direct flame combustion, thermal combustion and catalytic combustion. Flame combustion. Let's know about direct flame combustion. In this device, the waste gases are directly burned with or without the addition of auxiliary fuels. Direct flame combustions are often used in petrochemical plants and refineries. Let's know about thermal combustion. This process usually becomes necessary when the gaseous pollutant concentration is too low and is difficult to carry out Flame combustion. Direct flame combustion. Thermal combustion is carried out by a thermal incinerator after burner. And heat exchanger preheats the air or gas with the gaseous pollutants. This preheats gas is passed over to the incinerator equipped with a burner. The temperature of the incinerator may be in the range 500 to 1000 degrees centigrade, and this actually depends on the nature of the pollutant to be oxidized. Combustion with thermal incinerators has to be carefully carried out so that the oxidation process is efficient and complete. Incomplete combustion may produce more pollutants, example carbon monoxide. Catalytic combustion. This is required when the gaseous pollutants are too low in concentration. By employing a catalyst, the combustion can be made faster and complete, and catalyst can be used again and again. Catalytic combustion is used for the removal of nitrogen oxide and nitrogen dioxide from the nitric acid plants. Here platinum catalyst is used. Carbon monoxide can be removed by using copper catalyst. The major limitation of catalytic combustion is the high cost of the catalyst and maintenance of the catalytic combustion. Let's know about control devices for volatile organic compounds. These are several volatile organic compounds arising from industrial and domestic activities that cause air pollution. Good example of VOC. VOC means volatile organic compounds are broadly categorized as alcohols, ketones, organic acids, phenols, and organic solvents. The conventional methods, that means example combustion and adsorption of treatment VOC, require large quantities of energy besides creating secondary pollution. Biodegradation by microorganisms is a preferred method for controlling air pollution of VOC. The efficiency of biodegradation depends on the individual compounds, and based on this, VOC are broadly categorized as first point is rapidly degraded VOC, alcohols, ketones, aldehydes, organic acids. Second is slowly degraded VOCs, that is hydrocarbons, phenols, organic solvents. Organic solvents means chloroethene. Third is very slowly degraded VOC, polyaromatic hydrocarbons, polyhalogenated hydrocarbons. There are mainly two types of reactors designs for the biodegradation of VOCs: biofilters and bioscrubbers. Now let's know about biofilters. A biofilter is composed of a porous medium of compost wood chips that supports the microorganisms forming a film. The polluted air is first passed through a humidifier and then through the biofilter. A great majority of VOC in the air get biodegraded and clean air comes out of the biofilter. Now let's know about advantages of biofilters. They are simple and cost effective. Certain poorly soluble pollutants can be successfully used for the biodegradation of several xenobiotics, example chloromethanes. Now, let's know about disadvantages of biofilters. It is rather difficult to control process conditions, that is like pH and temperature. When compost is used as support material, it generates unpleasant odors. Biofilters require large areas. Let's know about bioscrubbers. Bioscrubber is an improvement over biofilter. When the polluted air is passed through a liquid stream in a spray chamber. The pollutant VOC gets transferred to the liquid. The sprayed liquid contains a suspension of microorganisms which cycles between the spray chamber and wastewater treatment unit, that is activated sludge unit. The clean air comes out after recycle from the spray chamber. Beside a continuous nutrient supply, it is essential to maintain the pH in the activated sludge unit. Biotrickle filters. Biotrickle filter is a recent development for more efficient biodegradation of VOC. It works on the principles of adsorption followed by biodegradation. The pollutant gases are adsorbed on a solid surface and then subjected to biodegradation by a stream of medium containing the desired microorganisms. As of now, biotrickle filters are at an experimental stage and soon they may be available for use. Thank you.